Hello, everyone, and good evening, and welcome to the Pasco City Council meeting. The city thanks you for attending and being a part of our city government. Agendas are available at the end of the staff table, and detailed agenda package is available on the City of Pasco's website. City Council meetings are televised live on Spectrum Cable, channel 191 in Pasco and Richland, and are streamed on the city's Facebook page and YouTube channel. Please silence all mobile and other electronic devices during the meeting so that they don't otherwise disturb the meeting. And then the council asks that anyone in the audience who wishes to speak during the visitor section or during the scheduled item section in the agenda to sign in prior to the meeting, which I see some have, and on the sheet next to the agendas, print your name clearly, include the section, the meeting you plan to speak under, and the topic you wish to speak about. This sheet will be given to me to use to call the speaker forward. Okay, and with those details out of the way, let's see here. I will ask the clerk to please call the roll, please, and please note that Mr. Alvarado will be absent tonight.
Barajas.
Present.
Maloney.
Here.
Martinez.
Present.
Milne.
Present.
Roach.
Present.
And Serrano.
Here.
All right.
6 accounted for, Mayor.
Thank you. So we have a quorum. Well, would you all please rise with me for the Pledge of Allegiance, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Now we're going to move on to the consent agenda. All items listed under the consent agenda are considered to be routine by the City Council and will be enacted by a roll call vote as one motion in the form listed below. There will be no separate discussion of these items. If further discussion is desired by the council members or the public, the item may be removed from the consent agenda to the regular agenda and considered separately. 3A, approval of meeting minutes. To approve the meeting minutes of the Pasco City Council meeting held on January 21st, 2020, and workshop held on January 27th, 2020. 3B, the bills and communications. To approve claims in the total amount of $3,058,971. And let's see here. In electronic transfer numbers, and let's see here. Yeah, so that's I'll just go back to approve claims in the total amount of $3,058,971. And with that, I will take a motion.
I move to approve the consent agenda as read.
I'll second that.
Okay, there's been a motion and it's been second. Roll call, please.
Serrano.
Yes.
Maloney.
Yes.
Milne.
Yes.
Roach.
Yes.
Barajas.
Yes.
Martinez.
Yes. All right, passes unanimously. We'll go to section 4, proclamations and acknowledgements. There's none listed. So now we go to section 5. Let's see here. Yeah, section 5, for visitors other than agenda items. This item is provided to allow citizens the opportunity to bring items to the attention of the City Council or to express an opinion on an issue. Its purpose is not to provide a venue for debate or for the posing of questions with the expectations of an immediate response. Some questions require consideration by council over time, and after a deliberative process with input from a number of different sources, some questions are best directed to staff members who have access to specific information. Citizen comments will normally be limited to 3 minutes, each by the mayor. Those with lengthy messages are invited to summarize their comments and or submit written information for consideration by the council outside of formal meetings. With that said, is there anybody here tonight that would like to speak on something that's not on the agenda items? There's one gentleman back there. Come on up, sir. Would you please state your name and address for the record, please?
Good evening. I'm Stephen Duckett, and my address is 5011 Malaga Drive. It's off of the corner section of Road 52 in Burton. And my request is that I received a letter from the code enforcement in my mail last week about my travel trailer being parked on the side of my house. And they're saying that that's a violation. And so I talked to the person there, the code enforcement officer, and she mentioned that something about the zoning designation was like an RF1, and he said that she said I would have to contact you guys to request a change to the zone to an R1 designation to where that can be allowed, where I can have my trailer on the side of the house. And that was what I was hoping to request.
Okay. Mr. Zabel, do you have some direction you can provide?
Yeah, if I could, maybe Mr. White could visit with you out in the hall. So nothing we can do tonight
Oh,
from
yeah.
a legislative standpoint, but could be, we could resolve this issue.
Okay.
Yeah, so, okay,
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Anybody else? Yes, sir. Please state your name for the record, please.
Yeah, my name's Rock Broadway. I live at 6020 West Park Street here in Pasco. I came 2 weeks ago, asked you guys if you guys would talk about making it a Second Amendment sanctuary city. And if you guys would also vote on banning a local income tax. Those are two things I think, we need to start protecting our people and protecting our rights. And it starts here, goes to the county, goes to the next one, goes to the next one, but we gotta protect ourselves from what the west side is trying to do. So I don't know if you guys ever talked about it or not, but that's something I think that needs to happen, and needs to be brought forward.
Sir, we have you down from the last time you spoke.
Yes, sir.
And we have not come together to speak about those topics, but we have a list of those items that we are gonna choose to bring up in our retreat that we have coming up. And we're gonna have to, pick and choose which ones are gonna be priorities, and then we can have a discussion within the council, what we're gonna
No,
discuss.
not a problem. I'll come every 2 weeks to come and ask the same thing again. If I just sit back and don't say anything, then, my voice needs to be heard. I think a lot of people's voice need to be heard. So I got petition papers, so I'm gonna start gathering signatures, and if you guys need that brought forward to see that the people do want that, I'll happily do that too. So,
All right.
all right, thank
Thank
you
you.
guys.
All right, anybody else here tonight that has something that's not on the agenda item? Mr. Baumann?
Good evening, council. My name's Stephen Baumann. I had three items that I wanted to visit with you about. I've had some challenges I've shared with a few of you. I've been trying to develop a piece of ground. We've had it in our control since November of 2018, and I've been trying diligently since then to develop that piece of ground. It's a part of the donut hole, which is unincorporated Franklin County, and I have a need for City of Pasco water in that area. And I don't know how else to say it better, but that I'm being held hostage by my need for water. The City of Pasco's stance is that they have control of anything that I want to do in that subdivision. They can decide what I do based on my need for water. Everything from streetlights to size of streets to everything. I've been very diligent. I think I've been worked carefully with both staff in Franklin County as well as the city, and I feel like that somehow it's not working right. And so I went to Franklin County Commissioners last Tuesday and I asked them, and so I'm here tonight to ask you if you would get together with the commissioners, and somehow we need to come up with a joint development agreement so that developers such as myself are not held hostage by the city of Pasco and Franklin County, both claiming jurisdiction on the same piece of ground. A couple of the things that are at issue there that I didn't take into account when acquiring that land is that the city of Pasco intends to hold me liable with impact fees. Those fees include park impact fees, traffic impact fees, as well as school impact fees, and are saying they have jurisdiction because I need water. The water is in an area that you are required to serve And, so somehow I need some relief on that. Diligently, I've been trying to get there, and I'm unable. I asked the city for one of the things that I'm required to do is sign a development agreement. I asked the city for that. It's a document that the city generates that I am required to sign before I can do the development, and I asked for that 11 months ago in March of 2019, and still have not received that. And I don't feel it's reasonable to go this far and not be able to make headway. So I'd ask for you to consider helping me with that. Second thing would like you to consider is on the school impact fees that is before you tonight. I hope I can speak on that.
If that's what school, it does have anything to do with what's on the, well, because we're not gonna speak about school impact fees tonight, so go ahead.
So is that not on the agenda tonight?
It is, but it's not for the school impact fees. It's for the plan,
Okay, so this has to do with this subdivision and just something I wish that you would consider. So as I develop this subdivision, this is a approximately 16 lot subdivision, and with that, I think it's an inequity for us as we put this subdivision in. It's $4,700 per lot is the school impact fee. So a hypothetical for you is if you were to purchase a lot in this subdivision, you would then be assessed that $4,700 impact fee. The school district has said that they are bringing another bond before us shortly to build more schools and so forth. I believe it's an inequity to both pay the impact fee and then as soon as the bond passes to then be paying the bond. Both things are slated for the same thing. I believe that's an inequitable thing to charge both. One lot is then liable for both. Another thing, when there's something that is also before you tonight, and I don't know when I would have the opportunity, it has to do with the planned unit development that's on your agenda. Can I speak to that or not?
why don't we wait, because,
Okay.
why don't we wait for that
Very
for when the
good.
time comes?
So, any
Thank you.
questions for me, or that good?
Well, I would just ask that maybe Mr. Zabel can provide some input, or maybe talk with Stephen about how we can, what the next step would be here.
Yeah, and good evening again, Mayor and Council. We have had numerous discussions on this, and staff has also conferred with senior staff at Franklin County about it. I think it comes down to the provision of city water. Obviously would allow the development of this property into 17 lots, I think. And were it across the street in the city limits, they would pay mitigation, whether it's school district or traffic or parks. What the developer is wishing to do is to avoid paying those impact fees. And I understand he feels that he shouldn't pay them, but they do his lot, his property, and the development of it will create impacts to the city's transportation system. County roads that he's going to use go right into a city street. It'll have impact on our parks. It'll have impact on city schools. City has an ordinance that requires collection of impact fees for properties within the city. That's not something the county commissioners have seen to do. However, the provision of water is a good linkage to mitigating those impacts. And this is something we've conferred with the city attorney on as well, in terms of provision of water and how we can condition that water. I would agree with Mr. Bauman's statement that the city does have an obligation to serve water within its service area. But I would go as farther to say that the provision of water in the service area isn't unconditional. We can put conditions on it, and that's what those are, is conditions.
So I don't disagree with I don't think anything that he said, and I do disagree with the impact fees, but that needs to be slated out in a development agreement, and that gives me the opportunity to respond, and I haven't had that opportunity. The other piece of that is, this is just one example, it's in Franklin County, and the city is saying that I have to put streetlights up. The city has a mechanism to pay for those streetlights once I turn them over to the city. They have a mechanism to pay for that, the power for those lights and et cetera. The county does not have that mechanism. the county doesn't have a way to do that, you know, to put up. And so it's if this is a statement from me, if the city wants this to be their way, then annex it and let's be done with it. If it's in unincorporated Franklin County, then let's let Franklin County, whose jurisdiction this is, let's follow their rules. The county has a different road section. I'm not concerned about an inch or two of rock in the subdivision, but right now I have two opposing standards. When I went through the process, went before the county, the planning department, and then went before the commissioners, they put on a set of conditions that Pasco did not appeal. It's Franklin County's jurisdiction. I think that we need to go through with what Franklin County, the conditions that they put before me. To say that you can reach in and require me to run, put a fence somewhere or put something where it is just because I need water from you, that's reaching way too far. That doesn't seem reasonable.
Well, it sounds like we're not gonna be able to resolve this tonight, Mr.
I
Bowman.
agree with that,
But
but
we need to move on, and I think we need to have, some type of a discussion. Maybe we can,
We'll reinitiate our discussion with county staff and Mr. Baumann.
Okay.
I did need to respond, though, that as far as resources, the county actually does impose a 50 cent per thousand levy on property tax for roads, something the city doesn't do, and that's a heck of a lot more than we're able to spend on our roads is 50 cents per thousand. If you equated that to the city and what our street budget is, it's far less.
Okay.
And I'd also mention that the county does have an urban standard. Whether or not they decide to apply it in the urban growth area, in the middle of the donut hole, surrounded by the city, I guess if the county doesn't want to apply their urban standard there, I don't know where they would apply it.
Okay.
But I will more than happy to meet with Mr. Baumann, and I would agree with you, Mayor, this is probably not the appropriate forum for this.
so I think we have enough information now to get an idea of what's going on, and we will work together to see how.
thank you very much.
Thank you. All right. Okay, we're gonna move on to the next item, and that's reports from committees and officers. And I'm sure we've had some activity going on that some of us would like to talk about. Who would like to go first? Mrs. Roach?
Yes, so last week went to Olympia for AWC, Associated Washington City Action Days, and met with several representatives, Matt Binky, Clippert, Jenkins, Senator Schossler as well, and so promoted our legislative agenda. It was really great to meet a lot of different city council members from all over the state, approximately I think 231 cities, and so it was neat to also learn about what are the different issues for these different municipalities around Washington. And I don't know if David, Councilmember Milne was there, and City Manager Dave Zabel, and so if they had anything else to add to it.
Perfect. Let's see, who was next here? I didn't see who was next.
I'll just,
Well, why don't you go ahead?
yeah, I'll
and-
just say that following up that we did meet up with them. We waited and completed our case for the Lewis Street overpass and for more funding for the process reuse facility there. So we'll see how it goes. All we can do is try our best and work hard to make Pasco a better place.
We did get a letter from our counterparts over in Olympia saying that they appreciated you guys' attendance there, along with Mr. Zabel, and it was very helpful. I appreciate you guys going for us. I couldn't make it last week, but we do have one more. Mr. Maloney?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I had an opportunity to go as part of with the Tri-Cities Legislative Council as well as the Leadership Tri-Cities. And so I had an opportunity to sit through a variety of sessions. We were able to meet with the Lieutenant Governor. I talked a little bit to his staff and have a follow-up regarding our partnership with Colima and see how the state can help amplify the solid work that we as a city are doing. So we'll see if anything can come of that. That is part of the Lieutenant Governor's mission, is to promote international trade. So that is something that we obviously are working on ourselves. Had an opportunity to meet with some of the legislators from across the aisle, from a lot of our legislators here locally. The news on transportation was not necessarily all that positive. Unfortunately, there's with I-976. The budgets have been tightened substantially, And there's a lot of transportation projects in need, and so I'm hopeful, but I did not receive a lot of positive responses from those discussions. But we had an opportunity to speak with a lot of folks, and we were able to sit in AWC's conference room and bring in a number of staff members as well as legislators and others, and really help share the overall economic development message of the Tri-Cities and the sort of things that we need. And as part of that package for the Tri-Cities Legislative Council, it included our legislative agenda. And so they had specifically enumerated items for example, for transportation, a project in each city, as well as some of this backup information. So it was really good to be able to come with a unified voice, and again have 40 or 50 people. We're the second largest contingent across the entire state that comes over for one lobbying session, and I'm glad to be a part of that again. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Maloney, appreciate it. And again, thank you very much for taking the time. That is quite a chore to go all the way over there and do what you guys did, so we appreciate that. All right, if there's nothing else, or nobody else, we're gonna move on to 6B. There's the General Fund Monthly December 2019 report. Does anybody have any questions on that? If not, we'll move on to item 7, hearings and council actions on ordinances and resolutions relating thereto. 7A, public hearing, Northwest Area Sewer LAD formation. Mr. Worley, you coming up to the podium.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council. Steve Worley, Public Works Director. Tonight we are to open a public hearing on the Northwest Area Sewer LID formation. And the information before you this evening is recommending that we continue the public hearing until March 2nd. And I kind of wanted to explain why we are proposing that at the moment. As soon as council adopted the resolution to announce the formation of the LID and set tonight as the public hearing date, staff sent out notices, as usual, notifying all the property owners in the LID of the public hearing and the intent to form the LID. And with that, we received a lot of comments. People contacted me. We met with them together. We talked about it. And as I presented to you previously, we have a lot of support for the formation of the LID. However, because of some issues related to not knowing exactly where the line is and some of the estimates that we have for the cost of the LID due to the fact that the alignment might change and how that LID cost will get distributed to each of the property owners, there was a request to maybe put the brakes on it a little bit and kind of go through a process of working with all of the property owners and identifying where that final pipe alignment's going to be and what the final cost and what the final assessment would be like. And so we feel that it would be a better way to get more people stronger on board with the LID by delaying the public or continuing the public hearing for a month, allow staff, our consultant, and our property owners to get together, meet, talk, plan, discuss, all that kind of stuff, and then come back to you on March 2nd with a collective effort to move forward with the public hearing and the LID. And we are scheduled to have our first meeting tomorrow with all of the property owners. We sent out notices to everybody, inviting them to the meeting. We're going to be presenting some information from our consultant, and it's kind of the start of getting that more information out to all of the LID participants.
All right.
So with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions for staff? Mr. Serrano?
Thank you. Have you received response as far as the time? Is 11 a.m. an amenable time to most of the property owners, or have you had any response?
I have not. There has been nobody that has said that they couldn't make it.
Okay.
I've received comments from several people that said they will be in attendance.
Okay. In the event that it proves problematic, are we considering a second one prior to March 2nd, or just kind of wait and see? Where are we?
Kind of wait and see. We'll see how many people show up, and then if it's not enough, we'll reach out to them and find out if there was an issue, and if we have to, we'll have another meeting.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
You bet.
Mr. Maloney?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Worley, so my understanding was that this was really, there's only 6 different pieces of property that are being considered for this LID. Is that the case, if I recall?
I believe there may be more now. When we first started this process, there were 6. That is correct. property number 3 on that map has now been subdivided into 3 other parcels.
So we're still talking about a fairly
Correct.
small handful of
Correct.
property owners. So when we're talking about being able to do outreach, there would not be an onerous task for us to be able to reach out to them individually for those who are not maybe able to make one of these meetings.
That is correct, and we have reached out to each of them individually, or tried to anyway.
Okay, excellent. Because I believe when we had this presented earlier, it was presented as a pretty open and shut case of the majority property owners were certainly on board and such. So I was curious of what had evolved since then. So thank you for clarifying.
Even some of those ones that were on board before, they are still on board. They just want to be more on board with additional information.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Worley. Any other questions? If not, you want to make a motion?
Actually, Mayor.
I'm sorry.
No, sorry. Actually, what I think we need to do procedurally is we need to have you actually close the meeting, open the public hearing, and then you can move to continue it while it's open. So it'll be continued from this evening on to the next time.
Thank you. Thank you for that correction. I believe it's the first time I do it. This one here like this. So, before opening the public hearing, let's see, we've done that. Does the council have any questions? So we need to open the hearing. Okay, the hearing is open. Does anyone else have anything they want to say or speak to this item? Okay, to a second call. And a third call for anyone who wants to speak on this item. Okay, we'll close the hearing. No, not yet?
No, keep it open, and then if somebody could make a motion.
I'm sorry, okay. Thank you for that.
No, sorry.
I move to continue the public hearing set in accordance with resolution number 3932 to March 2nd, 2020, establishing the Northwest Area Sewer LID.
Okay, there's been a motion and it's been seconded by Mrs. Roach. Everybody, just see, is it a roll call or? Nope. A voice vote. Everybody who would like to vote on a motion, signify by saying aye. Aye. Oppose? Okay, passes unanimously. Now we can close this. Oh, not yet?
Just leave it like it is.
Leave it the way it
Next
is,
item.
okay.
Yeah, it's open and it's going to stay open till then.
All right, well, thank
Great.
you very much, and I apologize.
Thank you.
For that. I'm still a little rookie at this here. All right, then we can move on to Section 8, ordinances and resolutions not relating to the hearing. And 8A, we'll be discussing and I hope I pronounced this correctly, the Hain?
I think it's hen.
Hen rezone. Let's see here. Okay, Mr. Rick White.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. This is a rezone request from the current C1 zoning to RS12 for one single-family lot located at 1405 North Road 38. This property was annexed about 35 years ago and assigned to C1 zoning, which created a non-conforming use, which wasn't an issue until the current owner attempted to sell the property. And then, as we all know, banks and insurers do not look with favor upon non-conforming uses. The owner has applied for the rezone request, and the hearing examiner has forwarded a recommendation of approval to City Council for this request.
Okay. Is there any questions by the council? If not, do you want to make a motion?
I move to adopt ordinance number 4480, rezoning a parcel located at 1405 Road 38 from C1 to RS12 and further authorize publication by summary only.
There's been a motion.
I'll second it.
Okay, Mrs. Roach seconded the motion. And I have a question for the attorney. Do we need to mention it's a quasi-judicial, or this is a quasi-judicial?
It couldn't hurt, yeah, to make sure that it's clear that if anybody has any contacts that they need to divulge at this time with the property or with any conversations they may have had, other ex parte contact, this would be the time to disclose that.
Yep, and this is new for you, Ms. Roach. If you have any questions, when it's a quasi-judicial matter, if there's anything you would like to disclose, now's the time. But you're good to go?
Mayor Martinez. Planning Commission is all
Okay.
quasi-judicial, so
All right, so
thank
you're
you, but I
experienced.
like that you're looking out for me. I
All right.
appreciate that.
All right, thank you. All right, with that, there's been a motion, it's been seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, the motion passes unanimously. Thank you, and we'll go on to 8B, Code Amendment, Planned Unit Developments. Is it Wardy, or do we have Mr.
That's probably me, Mr.
Oh,
Mayor.
Mr. White? Okay.
And again, this is an item that was considered by council at last week's workshop meeting. The planned unit development ordinance, it was a major rehaul to the existing ordinance. It drastically increases the opportunities and flexibilities in the planned unit development chapter of our municipal code. And it drastically reduces the non-starters, such as the 35% minimum open space requirement, which under the proposed ordinance changes to 15%. There was a maximum density added based on conversations last week, and the minimum density in the low density district was also changed from 5 to 6 to increase the opportunity that might be used, although I suspect that this would probably be a tool better used in our medium density and high density districts. So staff would certainly recommend approval of the ordinance in its current form based on last week's workshop.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. White. Any discussion from the council? If there's no discussion, can I hear a motion?
I move to adopt ordinance number 4481, amending PMC Chapter 25.140 Planned Unit Development and further authorize publication by summary only.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Mrs. Roach seconded. Mr. Serrano.
Thank you. So, Mr. White, in the event that one of the developers were to like this idea but have some tweaks to it, would they then have to have some type of additional special use permit? You know, let's say they came to you with a plan and said, I want to do a PUD, but it doesn't quite fit this mold. Or is this open-ended enough that we don't necessarily have a true mold?
I think the latter is the case. And it's intended to be open enough to provide the kind of flexibility where if you want something, then by all means request it. And let's examine the trade-offs. And I should make sure council understands, this item does go to the hearing examiner and it comes to council with a recommendation for approval. So it's treated exactly like a zone change.
Okay, thank you. Can you just quickly walk through the process, like how this looks again? A developer comes, they say, hey, I want to do a PUD on these many acres. I've got, preliminary plans. Can you take it from there just super briefly?
So what we'll do is we'll convene a time where we get the appropriate staff on board to just have an informal meeting with the developer or the applicant. We'll try to eliminate any red flags. We'll make suggestions as appropriate. And then from there on, it pretty much follows the same process as a zone change would.
All right, thank you.
All right. We did have a question, did you have a comment? Okay. Please, again, I know you have, but maybe state your name again one more time, please.
Stephen Bauman from here in Pasco. I'm really excited about this planned unit development. I do have a request when we bring something before council and we have something that changes stuff this much, that we would consult with whatever party it is that it impacts, such as this. I'm very involved in the development of Tri-Cities, especially in Pasco. Have a tremendous amount of land that we have high hopes for, and a lot of excitement about where we're headed and what we're doing in Pasco. And last Monday night at the workshop meeting was the first time I'd heard about this. I'm inside of this building probably 4 times a week on average, and so there's plenty of opportunity. And so I would encourage that when we have something like this that we're going to bring before whoever the party is that it impacts, that we would share that with who we're impacting. An example of recently, when we changed our standards and specifications, is an example of recent that as contractors we said we would like to have more input, and this is another example of when we're really excited about this. We've put a tremendous amount of time into reading the draft on this and learning about it in the last 7 days. And we wished we had known that it was coming and may have had some comments on it. We don't have comments as of yet, but we're excited about this possibility and excited this change is coming.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate the comment. Mr. Maloney.
Mr. Baumann, before you step away, just a quick question. I know you're doing a fairly large development towards the Broadmoor area there. Is this something that you would have looked at as a potential tool if this had been available kind of in its current form? Would that have been something that you've been considering as part of the development that you're looking at?
So we bought the Harris Farm, and so it's something that in the last week has really, I don't know what the right word is, maybe swerved the direction that we were headed, just because of the possibility and what this encompasses. So that's one specifically. There's 3 other parcels that we're considering carefully. There's one that we're in talks with the owners of the property and the possibility of doing a like over 55 community, and this is something that would be really helpful for that. When I began visiting with them about that, it was something that they had wanted the idea of something like that, and we visited about that, but we weren't aware of anything like this being an option. And now that it is, that's something that we're excited about. So there's 3 properties that we have that this potentially could impact. So yeah, it could make a real difference in the direction that we're headed with several pieces of property.
I appreciate that additional information. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you.
And Mr. White, congratulations for looking and your staff for having brought together some of these ideas that are helping change the way we can develop our city and giving it options, not just requirements, but possibilities for thinking outside the box.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Maloney. And again, as a legislative issue, it's a bit hard to know exactly who's going to be in favor of this or need to know about it or is interested. But just as a reminder to council, this was before the Planning Commission. I want to say 5 times in the course of the last year and a half. And if there's a way that we can get with Mr. Baumann, for example, and get him on the mailing list for our Planning Commission agendas, we'll certainly pursue that.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Maloney, and thank you for that. Hopefully that'll satisfy some of the communication issues there. All right, well, thank you very much. So we have a motion and a second. All those in favor with the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Well, moving on to the next item, 8C, the Pasco School District update on the 2019 Capital Facilities Plan. Mr. White, you're
Thank
very
you,
popular tonight.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. And this item, again, is a carryover from last week's presentation by the school district at the workshop meeting. The resolution incorporates the Pasco School District's 2019 Capital Facility Plan into our comprehensive plan. It does not change or request a change in the existing school impact fees, even though the costs, as we all know, continue to rise for new facilities to serve students. It simply incorporates the new projects the school district has identified as necessary to serve new growth and allows them to use the collected impact fees in a variety of ways on those identified new facilities.
Okay. Thank you. And with that, I know we have some public comment tonight. Mr. Link, you want to come on over and state your name and address for the record, please?
Thank you, Your Honor, and I'll have something on the projector. Perfect. Honorable Mayor and Council, my name is Roger Link. I reside at 1817 North Road 76, Pasco, Washington, 99301. I'm here to provide public comment on the school district's capital facilities plan. I will focus on the financial aspects of this issue and the integrated regressive impact fees. Rather than bore you with statistics and formula, I provided the city clerk with copies of a handout for each of you. A picture is worth 1,000 words. The first exhibit, which I have on the projector, says it loud and clear. The Department of Revenue's assessed values, levies, and rates by major taxing districts graph shows Pasco School District's levies are far and above the highest in the state. Pierce and our district's rates are by far the highest in the state. The third highest ranked district is a $0.50 per thousand less. The median school tax rate in Washington is $4 per $1,000 of assessed valuation. East and west side districts are evenly distributed throughout the graph, so valuations play no role. And I'll just point out that that's our local school district there. The Department of Revenue does not provide this graph past 2016. I'm told by the department that someone from our local school, one of our local agencies, complained that it was being used against us. However, the Excel spreadsheet with the latest supporting data shows for 2018, after the addition of the $99.9 million bond, I guess bonds are priced like gasoline, when they were placed on the ballot, the Pasco School District had the honor of the highest levy of the 295 districts in the state of Washington. Our district is 60% above the median school tax levy. Pasco pride. 66% of the city of Pasco homeowners' property tax goes to Pasco schools. Of course, this high levy rate does not include the school impact fees we are talking about tonight. This inequity of paying both impact fees and the highest school levies in the state impacts all Pasco residents negatively. One point the district will not tell you is that since the legislative changes resulting from the McCleary decision, enrichment levies no longer decrease when assessed values increase. They remain the same, costing taxpayers more rather than the same or less as assessed valuation increases. The enrichment levy adopted in 2018 will be $1.50 for each $1,000 of assessed valuations for all 4 years, regardless how an individual's assessed valuation changes. The district told the public that its $99.9 million bond would be richly supplemented by state matching grants in order to build the schools we are told the district needs. Whoops! State Superintendent of Public Instruction has decided that Pasco has enough space in their elementary and middle schools to last them till at least 2025. And that's Exhibit 2 in your package. It should be noted that the district is nearly at its maximum bond allocation of 5% of assessed valuation. It only has enough to build a high school or seek money to build the schools it promises citizens. The state superintendent appears to undermine everything we were told by the district last week. If we look at the state report cards from the superintendent of public instruction, and those are exhibits 3 through 6, we find Pasco in first place in the Tri-Cities in terms of cost. Again, Pasco pride. Kennewick and Richland annually spend $11,639 per student. Pasco spends $12,496. This high cost per student spending reveals Pasco wastes $16.5 million when compared to our neighbors, a 60% increase over 2017. Pasco is about equal to the heavily high-cost West Side weighted state average. Kennewick and Richland average 18.2 students per teacher. Pasco only has 15.8 students per teacher. Pasco employs 160.5 teachers more than our neighbors would hire to educate the same number of students. Again, Pasco pride. If Pasco could become more efficient, no impact fees would be necessary. Comparing the reports, we still find that student performance is the lowest in the state of Washington. That's not Pasco pride. In conclusion, the Pasco School District is awash in money and has no need for school impact fees, either from the city of Pasco or Franklin County. Since its implementation, the district has received $12 million from the impact fees collected by the city of Pasco. 1 year potential savings of $16.5 million could easily offset the $12.5 million collected over the past several years and well into the future. At this point, not even the state believes they have a shortage of schools for students in their district. Perhaps this will change by 2025. If they think they need the money, simple improvements and efficiency will resolve the issue. There's no good financial reason to collect impact fees, raising the cost of housing to Pasco residents, especially first-time home buyers. The only logical choice is for the city of Pasco to review and hopefully eliminate the collection of school impact fees. Thank you for your time this evening.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Link. Thank you for that information.
You're welcome. Thank you.
So, is there any discussion from the council or any questions? Tonight we'll be voting on the capital facilities plan. We won't be voting on that, but I do appreciate that information. So, did you make a motion or not yet?
No. I move to approve resolution number 3940 incorporating the Pasco School District's 2019 update of the capital facilities plan into the City of Pasco's comprehensive land use plan.
There's been a motion. And there's a second by Mr. Serrano. Any further discussion from the council? Mr. Maloney.
Mr. Martinez, I'd just like to state I would continue to support the school district and the good work they're doing with our kids and our community.
Okay, thank you. I realize there's a lot of challenges there. Some of this has to do with how we're growing, how fast we're growing. We're one of the fastest growing cities in the state of Washington. I know there's a lot of challenges. I do believe we need to put ensure as citizens that our Pasco schools are running as lean as they can. I know there's a lot of issues that are being mandated at the state level that they don't have choices on. But with that, all that said, schools are very important. We all know that. We know it's an integral part of a city and what makes a city and what's going to attract businesses. I believe they're trying, but yes, we do need to always, make sure that that we're doing the best we can. So, with that, all those the motion is. We've had a motion. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Oppose? One. Okay. Let the record show that there's one nay. But the motion passes. Thank you very much for that. All right, going to the next on the agenda item, unfinished business. Anybody have any unfinished business they would like to discuss? Mr. Zabel? No, not tonight. New business. No new business. Miscellaneous discussion by anybody on the council? If not, Mr. Zabel.
I did have just a couple items, Mr. Mayor. First of all, some of the council might remember we were trying to coordinate what's called a planning short course a couple years ago when a number of you came on the council, and we weren't able to find one locally. I think the nearest one was up in maybe Ellensburg at the time, and I believe it conflicted with a council meeting. But there is a planning short course that is set up now by AWC March 5th from 6:15 to 9:15 at Richland City Hall. So if there's any interest in attending that, it's a really good course. Of course, we don't do as many of the land use decisions at council level now, but it's still a pretty informative course. If any council is interested in attending that, please feel free to let me know. And then I did, just as a side with respect to the school district issue, had been doing a little research tonight online when I saw the exhibit, and wanted to remind council, and this might be news to everybody because it's actually fairly recent, but in 2019 a lot of things changed because of what the legislature did, and our levy rate dropped by about $2 per thousand for the whole city. We went from about $12 aggregate, that's the county share of the property tax plus ours plus the states and as well as the school districts, down to $10. So $2 per thousand savings. And the big numbers came from the Pasco School District in 2018, and I hate to throw numbers at you, but I think this is informative based on the discussion we're having. 2018, the M&O rate, just for the M&O rate for Pasco School District was $3.947 per thousand. So, almost $4 per thousand just for the M&O rate. And the bond rate was just over $2. So that was almost $6 per thousand was the school levy, the local school levy rate. That doesn't include what the state levies on properties within the city. Legislature made some pretty significant changes statewide that impacted how that the school maintenance and operations fees, now called enrichment fees, were distributed. And in 2019, that M&O rate dropped from $3.94 per thousand, essentially the year before, down to $1.50. And that $1.50 is the same $1.50 in 2020. So those rates dropped. The bond rate did pop up to $2.43 per thousand in 2019 because of the levy, the bond. And that's dropped a little bit down to $2.2631 because of an increase in assessed valuation. So as Mr. Link mentioned a few minutes ago, that $1.50 per thousand stays constant. That's not impacted by, apparently from these numbers, it's not impacted by the assessed valuation or growth in the assessed valuation, but it does impact the bond rate. So the bond levy is impacted by an increase in assessed valuation. So it gets a little complicated, and I'm no expert at explaining school levy, the application of school levies. So please forgive me kind of stumbling through that, but I thought that information would be useful for you to know. And my source document was the Franklin County tax booklet, which is online on the assessor's site. So that's all I had for this evening.
Thank you. All right. And next on the agenda is adjournment. If there's no further discussion or new business from the council, then this meeting is now adjourned. Thank you.